to another edition of the Cow Report. Of course, I'm your host, Chuck Lee. I'm coming to you live on tape from the Roy Rogers Hoff Memorial Studios right here in Altoona, Wisconsin. Of course, coming from Altoona, you never know what's going to happen. You know, there's been a big controversy over here with the city council disintegrating before our very eyes, and just all the controversy over here. And of course, this is the hometown of Randy the Common Man. And of course, that's another bone of contention and a source of all kinds of trouble. Just him living in the same town as the Altoona City Council is enough to keep everyone all mixed up. But anyway, boy oh boy, as usual, do I have a lot to talk about tonight. And tonight is no exception. And of course, this is late night, Saturday night. This is taped, so whatever I say tonight, some of it might be a little bit old news for you, but hopefully what I say won't be old news for most of you when you watch it on Monday night. So we're right here at the end of August, and what I've been doing all summer here is we've been showing some highlights from some of my previous programs. So tonight we're going to show one or two highlights from some previous programs that I think you'll really enjoy. One of them was the Johnny Ringo episode. The professional Johnny Ringo came in from California and challenged the Common Man to a professional wrestling match, and of course the Common Man as usual wimped out. But you'll see all that right here again. That's one of the classics, and then possibly we might show you another classic if we have any time left over. But we want to get right into the program here. So first thing I pulled off the internet tonight here was, and it's probably all over the news tonight and will be tomorrow and again Monday, but the vice president's son was arrested for recklessly driving 100 miles an hour. And of course, Tipper Gore was really upset about it. She fears for her son's life. Now, I think this is the son that was hit by a car and almost died. And this was a turning point in Al Gore's life. This is where he lost his religion, became pro-abortion, and he kind of blamed God for his son almost dying, but his son lived through it, so you'd think that he would be thanking God for his son living. But this is the son now who's a teenager, and this is a world exclusive here on Saturday night here on the Drudge Report. And it starts out, a dark cloud hovered over Vice President Al Gore's family this week after Gore's son was arrested for driving 100 miles an hour in a 55 mile per hour zone, the Drudge Report has learned. "You're going to kill yourself," Tipper Gore shouted at her son after he was arrested and released on bond in Currituck County, North Carolina. According to an eyewitness, Mrs. Gore blasted her son for embarrassing the family and risking his life in a daredevil drive that stunned even the locals. "Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to tear apart the family?" Tipper Gore demanded. "And on your father's convention week." Gore was driving a 2000 Oldsmobile when he was pulled over by the Highway Patrol. He has been charged with careless and reckless driving, and a court date has been set for mid-September. He said he was in a hurry. He was driving up to Washington, D.C. to catch a flight somewhere, says a source. The vice president maintained his composure throughout the convention week, but behind the scenes, Gore was reportedly furious at his son's arrest and was visibly distracted while he worked on his acceptance speech. The vice president hasn't had enough hours in the day to spend quality time with his son, especially now with the campaign in full swing, said a well-placed insider this weekend. So it looks like one of the Gore children is in trouble, and this kid is, I don't know if it's residue left over from the serious accident he had years ago. He pretty much came close to dying in that, I think he was hit by a car, and that, like I say, it was a turning point for Al Gore. So, the vice president has also worked hard to influence Albert, that's his son's name, Albert's personal and social development. They've been running and lifting weights together. So Al's trying to pull his son around, but you know, teenage kids, they'll do some crazy things, and this is just one of them, driving 100 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour zone. So that's the name of that tune. Oh, by the way, I went and saw Freddie Boy today. And Fred's lost a lot of weight. You know, he just turned 83 in May, and he's they're feeding him through a tube, but he's still able to walk around. They don't keep the tube in him all the time, but they do put a tube in his stomach to feed him liquid meals, and so he's lost about 40 pounds since his heyday on the Cow Report. He's getting a little bit skinny and a little frailer, but he still watches the show, and he said he'd like to come on again and make some cameo appearances, so Roy and I are going to try and figure out how we can get him on videotape here, and so he can let all of his friends and fans see him again. Yeah, he's still chipper and spry and still in his right mind. We went out today, and the owner of the Dairy Queen, in one of the Dairy Queens in town, bought him a great big nice milkshake for free, and we rode around, and then we had to go to the Sacred Heart Hospital because his wife Betty fell just a day or two ago and broke her hip. She's in pretty bad shape, recovering from a broken hip, so we wish her a speedy recovery so she can get back to the Claremont nursing home and be with Fred. They both share a room there at the nursing home. So Fred wishes everyone well and says hi to everybody, and we hope that Betty will get well real soon. Okay, coming to you from the Banner, which is the Wisconsin Pro-Life Wisconsin newsletter that comes out periodically, and I had a nice chat with the president of the Pro-Life Wisconsin group just a few weeks ago. Her name is Peggy Hamill, and this is their newsletter that comes out periodically, and in it there's some nice articles in here, but the Pro-Life Wisconsin group has just formed a political action committee to assist 100% pro-life candidates. And the article says, in order to see the killing stopped and every preborn baby defended, we have to elect men and women to the state legislature who are truly 100% pro-life, said Betty Lobenstein, treasurer of the newly formed Pro-Life Wisconsin Victory Fund Political Action Committee. And so this new committee was formed in late June for the first time since Pro-Life Wisconsin's inception 8 years ago. A 100% pro-life political action committee directly associated with Pro-Life Wisconsin will be active in the fall elections. 2000 was a year to take the step, said Mary Matuska, president of Pro-Life Wisconsin's Victory Fund Political Action Committee. We've used the last 8 years to build a strong, respected, and influential role at the Capitol, and now we need to put some principled political actions behind our lobbying efforts. So for more information on the Pro-Life Victory Wisconsin Victory Fund PAC, contact PLW Victory Fund, PAC, 724 8th Street, Beloit, Wisconsin, 53511. They do have a internet address or an email, which is PLW Victory Fund. It's all one word, lowercase, PLW VICTORY FUND at AOL.com. And you can find out more about it, and they'll tell you on their site who they're going to be endorsing for the not only the September 12th primary, but for the general election in the fall. And remember, that primary is coming up right around the corner. Here it is almost September, so that primary is almost upon us. So if you want to find out who Pro-Life Wisconsin Political Action Committee endorses, then you want to go to that, you want to email them or call them. Their number is 608-363-1170. Okay, some of the other information they have here it might be disturbing to some of you, but its fact is Wisconsin embryo stem cells are in high demand. It has emerged that researchers in Britain are circumventing the present ban on all human cloning by importing embryo stem cells from the United States. The cells, stored in dry ice, were imported from Wisconsin several months ago and were taken from discarded embryos produced by in vitro fertilization. And another article here is bioethics expert warns of human genome project. Father Joseph Howard, director of the American Bioethics Advisory Committee, has warned of the dangers the project to map the entire human genetic code presents. It has become common malpractice to generate human embryos by in vitro fertilization and test them for abnormal genes, said Howard. Once found and tested, these human beings are destroyed. There is the real concern of misusing science to generate designer babies with preferred genetic traits. So that's the next step. Now they know how to manipulate the genes in humans, they'll start making designer babies. So if you want a blue-eyed, blonde-headed, 6'2", 180-pound male human being with no chance of having diabetes or cancer, they're almost to the point now where they can create that type of human being for you. And I'm sure that young couplers are just going to flock to this. They're going to want it. Even if they have to take the old mark of the beast right on their forehead, they'll still want that. Because they'll want that perfection and they'll want that edge to get into the best colleges. And for their children, they'll want any edge they can to have that perfect child. But it just won't work. It'll, somewhere along the line, something will go wrong and they won't have that perfect child. Okay, there's an alliance now that's uniting pro-abortion groups. A new group called Alliance for Justice has a member list which reads as a who's who in the pro-abortion industry. Planned Parenthood Federation of America, National Organization for Women, the National Abortion and Reproductive Rights Action League, etc., etc. One member organization that's stuck out, however, was Consumers Union, the group which publishes Consumer Report. They can be reached at 914-378-2000 for questions regarding their membership. For the full member list, please go to www.afj.org/memlis.html. And that's a new thing on the horizon. There are these different groups forming together. Okay, so that's pretty much the highlights of this issue of the banner from Pro-Life Wisconsin. And there is maybe one more here. The American Heart Association has no heart for the preborn. In a June 26, 2000 memo released by their CEO, the American Heart Association announced their support of research on the stem cells of human embryos. This means that donor money, along with federal funds, will be used to conduct such research. Pro-Life Wisconsin, in its press release condemning the vote, cited numerous studies that show destruction of human embryos are not necessary to gain benefits from stem cell research. Pro-Life Wisconsin asks that you reconsider any American Heart Association donations in light of this announcement. And they can be reached at 800-242-8721 for questions. That's 800-242-8721. So that's pretty much the story there. There's a couple other interesting articles, but you probably should just join the Pro-Life Wisconsin and then get yourself their newsletter. Their homepage is www.prolifewisconsin.org, prolifewisconsin.org, and you can see what the latest issues are in the abortion industry and what's going on in that area. All right, so now what we're going to do at this point, before we get into some of our other articles and go on to the great preview or the great showing of one of our classics, the Johnny Ringo Affair, we want to give a call to Randy the Common Man and see if he will answer to the charges of this newspaper here that I'm holding up. And we just want to find out from him firsthand what he has to say about these charges in this newspaper that I'm holding up right here. So We're going to get him on the phone right now. And of course, this is live as I'm calling, but it's Saturday night. And so we'll just see what he has to say. So please stay tuned. Okay, what can I accuse him now to get him?
Manager, a caller ID service, and your number is not identified. At the tone, say your name or the company you represent.
Okay, we're calling the common man right now.
You are calling as privacy manager, a caller ID service, and your number is not identified. At the tone, say your name or the company you represent, and your call will be completed.
My name is Chuck Lee, and you better pick up the phone. This
Please
is...
hold while your call is completed. Still trying.
Well, we're waiting to see if the common man's going to pick up the phone. We know he's
Still
on.
trying.
We know he's on the other end, but he's doing his typical routine there of procrastinating.
Still trying.
He sure is trying. He's taking his time, but we've got the evidence right here.
Still trying.
And here's the paper. Here's the headlines right here. How many years we've been exposing these bums, Roy? 20, 25? That's what I figure. Of course, that's Roy Rogers Hoff that's talking to, our pyrotechnical engineer.
Still trying.
Well, the communist man here he's stonewalling us, just like Nixon did. He's got some new phone gadget here where you got to tell him who's calling, or he won't pick up the phone if he doesn't like who it is calling. Evidently, he's trying to put me on hold
Still
here.
trying.
I don't know how he can afford anything like this. He can't even afford gasoline for that big gas hog of his.
Still trying.
Of course, he's going to be the laughingstock of public access when they hear this on the show.
The person you are calling is not available. Thank you.
Well, Roy, it looks like the common man wimped out. He's got some new gadget that he's probably paying 10, 15 bucks a month for, just so he can screen the 3 calls he gets a month. So this is one of the 3 calls that he gets every month. The other 2 are probably bill collectors that are after him, and that's probably why he's got this service. So unfortunately, we can't talk to the common man tonight till he comes back to his senses. So we'll put that aside for now. But we've got the evidence right here. We've got all the evidence we need. I'm holding in my hand a letter that the common man sent to Roy Hoff in Altoona. They only live a mile apart. The common man has to write him a letter. But in that letter, he's making threats to both Roy and I, saying, shape up. Public access community television staff members are not pleased with either you or Chuck, and he's meaning either Roy or Chuck. And he says he's not talking to either one of us right now, so he's put up some gadget on his phone system there to block our calls. And he sent this nasty letter to Roy. And Roy's never done anything to the common man. He's worked his fingers to the bone helping that guy over the years, fixing his stuff that he's damaged. And one time he took a VCR and took a hammer to it, and Roy tried to fix it for him, just out of the kindness of his heart. So we've got the evidence right here in the paper. And this paper says right here, it says here the common man has been named leader of the Communist Party of Wisconsin. And it's right here in headlines. And you can't deny it. You can block your phone, commie, but we've got the facts right here. All right. Okay, well, our next item of business here is, well, you know, the Senate race here in Wisconsin is kind of a given here. Herb Kohl is going to win by a landslide. He's got millions of dollars. He owns the Milwaukee Bucks, and his family built up the Kohl department stores, and he owns some stock in that still, I think, or maybe he divested of that, but that race is going to be won by Cole with no problem. But there is a close race right across the border in Minnesota. Senator Rod Grams is running against 3 Democrats, and now one of Jesse Ventura's new party, the Independence Party, one of the leaders, the former leaders of the Democratic Party, has jumped ship and is running on the Independence Party for the U.S. Senate. Well, maybe he's not running for U.S. Senate, but I know there's several candidates running, and their primary is in September too. I think it's September 12th. So we'll know then who the Democrat will be that's running against Rod Grams. But this is one of the closely watched races all over the country. This is one of probably the top 5 races in the Senate and the House that all the political pundits and political junkies are watching all over the country. This is going to be really close. And so there's a nice flyer here on Rod Grams working for Minnesota seniors, and it kind of tells about how he's working to safeguard Social Security, improve Medicare, protecting the quality of life, planning for a secure future. And I think Rod Grams is a pretty good guy. He used to be on Channel 9, or it was Channel 9, I'm pretty sure, in the cities, the independent channel over there. He was a newscaster on there for years, and then he ran for the Senate in '94 and won. Now he's running for re-election. If you want to read more about Rod Grams, you can go to www.grams2000.com. And the first time I met him was at a gathering over in the cities, and I was one of the speakers. I walked into this big ballroom. I thought there was just going to be a few people in there that I was going to be speaking to. Of course, I had a minor speaking role at this engagement. My time to speak was only about 5 to 10 minutes. But I got in there and looked around, and there was 1,000 people in that room, and there were several senators and congressmen, and Rod Grams was one of the people in that room. So I got to give a short speech, and then I shook Rod's hand after that speech was over. But I think he's a pretty good senator, and we should keep him reelected so that the Republicans can keep control of the United States Senate, and along with a United States House controlled by the Republicans and a Republican president. And then they've got 2 years to prove themselves. A clean sweep with the Republicans in there. We give them 2 years. If they can't do things, they can't turn things around, cut taxes, strengthen Social Security and Medicare, cut the size of government, strengthen defense, get that marriage penalty tax thrown out so that married couples are on an even keel with single couples, strengthening our defense, which Clinton has pretty much let just run down over the last 8 years, to where they have to cannibalize a lot of parts from one helicopter to keep another helicopter running, and one gun to keep another gun shooting, and one plane and one ship to keep another ship running. They've had to do a lot of that. So we need to keep a strong defense, because we still have a lot of enemies out there in this world, and you never know tomorrow who your enemy's going to be. So that's another thing we need, is a strong defense. We need to cut that size of bureaucracy. We got a Department of Education out there in Washington that doesn't teach anybody anything, and it's just full of bureaucrats out there. We send billions of dollars from Wisconsin and all the other states out to Washington. We want that money back in Minnesota and Wisconsin, teaching the children, giving quality pay to teachers that deserve it, rebuilding our schools that are crumbling, and getting that money back into the local schools, and also to help with charter schools, and to help with vouchers for people that want to put their children in private schools. Those are just some of the things we want to see the Republicans do in the next 2 years if they get that clean sweep and get total control of the federal government. If they can't prove themselves by cutting government, cutting taxes, getting more money back in the people's pockets and less in the bureaucrats' pockets in Washington, building up a strong defense, protecting Social Security and Medicare, getting the price of prescription drugs down to where everyone can afford them. If they can't do that in the next 2 years, then they don't deserve to control Congress, and you can vote them out. But let's give them those 2 years to turn some of these things around that have languished in federal government over many years. So that is the end of that segment. Now I'll go back to a couple more things I had here. that I can find here. Well, I guess I can't find them. So at this point, we'll come back after that and I'll have some more things to talk about. But at this point now, we're going to go to a segment that aired, what, Roy, about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago? And it's one of the famous segments that was on public access back then. And it was a segment where we had a professional wrestler fly in all the way from California, come on the show to challenge the common man to a professional wrestling match in the Eau Claire area. And so you can watch the results of what happened when we brought on Johnny the Man Ringo, professional wrestler from California. So take it away, Roy. Let's see that interview. I'm very concerned with the frequency at which these behaviors were aired. And I hear some music out there in the hallway, and Roy, I don't know what's going on, but seems to be some commotion out there in the hallway, and somebody is making their way into the studio here.
Oh, Chuck, how you doing?
Well, if it ain't my old friend, California, Johnny the Man Ringo. Glad to see you.
Yeah, Chuck, I'm back!
Where in the heck you been for the last 3 years?
Well, Chuck, I've been out doing some time at my home in Beverly Hills. Sitting back there watching the Cow Report when I have my spare time. How you been?
Pretty good. It looks like you're still wrestling.
Oh, yes. Have you seen Chuck down there in Tijuana a few years back? Intercontinental Past 11 World Wrestling Champion beat Julio Iglesias down there in Tijuana in a death match.
Well, I know you won that championship here about 3 years ago, and then you disappeared with the belt.
That's right.
What happened?
Took some time off, Chuck. Needed to take back, look at a few things, you know. After beating all those midgets up there in Bulgaria, had no competition left, but I've been sitting back there in my home in Beverly Hills. I see a big mouth here in Eau Claire shooting off his mouth about you, Chuck. A guy by the name of the Common Man.
Yeah, he's that little guy about 5'3".
Yeah, what's his deal? Bad mouthing you, the best show on public access, the Cow Report.
Ever since you left town, he's been mouthing off.
I see that, and it's just irritating me, Common Man. I want you to put your money where your mouth is. I'm challenging you to the steel cage death match for the Intercontinental Past 11 World Wrestling Championship. Come on, Common, accept the challenge. You're bad-mouthing my friend Chuck, and I'm not going to take it anymore. The Cow Report, the best show on television, and that show you've been watching, I've been watching out there in Beverly Hills, Chuck. It's irritating. It's nothing like the great piece of art you got going here.
Well, we thank you. And you know, it is rough back here in the Midwest when you have to deal with people like that. And they mouth off a lot, but you know, let's see if the Common Man will take you up on that challenge. And you know, I think we have a wrestling promoter right here in town that'll write up the contract.
One of those great Ghanaians. I trained under him, Chuck. Learned a lot about that. Let's bring it on, Common. Accept the challenge. I'll take you on any time, any place. Let's see if we can get this going.
Well, I know you had 362 wrestling matches, and then you just disappeared.
Well, you got to take some time off.
You took the belt and left town.
Well, I've been working out there in Beverly Hills with Hollywood Hogan. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah.
Working together on the NWO, and now I'm back in Eau Claire, restaking my claim, and want to make sure the Common can put his money where his mouth is and accept the challenge here for the Intercontinental Pact 11 World Wrestling Championship.
All right, well, the challenge is out there. We'll see if Common's out there in TV land watching, if he wants to call in and get his motor mouth running, and we'll see if he has any words to say about the challenge. And what kind of match is it now?
I'm challenging you if you'll accept steel cage death match to the end. But Common, I know you might be a little afraid. So I'll accept any match under your conditions, your terms. I will accept the challenge.
I know there's some holes you perfected when you're over there in Bulgaria, and I saw a few news clips, but other than that, you totally disappeared, and we didn't know if you were wrestling in Europe or not, but we saw where you were doing those Velcro midget wrestling matches over there, and we couldn't, and we were wondering what the heck's going on over there. You're wrestling 3 midgets at once and picking them up, and when they had Velcro all over them, and you throw them against the wall and they'd stick, and it was 3-on-1. I don't know what was going on there, but it looks like
all down.
It looks like you held the belt through all that.
You know, the one match where 7 midgets against me, they're all in their Velcro jumping up against me, but there's no challenge for the man. I am Johnny the Man Ringo, and it's great to be back, Chuck. I can't tell you how excited I am back here on the Cow Report, back in Eau Claire here. It's just a great feeling to be back in town.
Now, will there be any referees in this, or is it just you and Common locked in this iron cage?
Well, I would prefer, I think we could have you as a special guest referee, but I'll accept any challenge, any conditions Common Man wants. I'm leaving it totally up to him. He's the one that's afraid. I'm making this wide open, however he wants to do this, Common. I'll accept any type of conditions you want, anybody you want refereeing. I'll accept the challenge.
All right, well, that'll be a good match to put together, and we have some matchmakers here in town. Jim Gagne has his wrestling association, and I know you were kicked out of Wrestling Association about 10 years ago. You had a falling out with Vern Gagne over there in the city.
We had a little miscommunication there, and Vern Gagne was shooting off his mouth. He does that once in a while, and I took him down. He kicked me out, and Vince McMahon at the WWF kicked me out. Nobody's been able to handle me, so I took some time off, disappeared for a while. But the man, Johnny the Man Ringo, is back. Bigger, badder, better than ever, and accepting, waiting for that challenge from Common. I see that phone's not ringing too fast, Common. Are you a little afraid?
Well, I remember that one match where you wrestled that 353-pound woman, 6'2". I mean, she looked like a bull out there. You had your hands full that night.
It was a tough match. The title was on the line. I thought it could slip away, but we dug deep down inside to the soul, the heart. And we pulled it up, we got her down, we pinned her, we threw her around at the end there like she was a bag of Olestra potato chips. There was no match for Johnny the Man Ringo.
I know, it looked pretty rough there for about the first 35 minutes. That was one of the longest matches in the history of wrestling.
I tell you, I know how Hollywood Hogan felt when he faced Tubby there, Andre the Giant. That was a tough match, one of the great ones. And she was pretty much the dang near size, and it took all I had to pick her up, body slam her to the ground. But after we got all the little Ringoans running around supporting me, it was no problem taking her down.
Okay, I think we got a call coming in here, so we better take a call here. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, how you doing?
All right.
This is Rich Wingo here, and I'm a little agent for this guy here that wants to take this guy out in a little wrestling match.
What guy?
Guy you're talking to right here with the belt.
Well, he's challenging the Common Man. You gonna?
Oh, I got a Common Man for him.
Is it the Common Man?
It's the Common Man. 6'6", about 305 pounds. Solid muscle, baby, coming at you.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can make that match. But right now, Johnny's back in town, and you flew back just for this one match, though, right? You still have your wrestling career. What's going on out there in California now? How's your wrestling career going?
Going pretty well out there. Like I said, we've been working a lot with Hollywood Hogan. Working with him, getting some things set up there. The NWO, some great things going on out there. But like I said, been back there in Beverly Hills in the house, watching the show, seeing Common shooting his mouth off. So I spoke to Miss Nikki, my manager, the former World Heavyweight Champion Intercontinental there. And we got on our jets here. She flew me out here to Eau Claire. And we wanted to end this dispute once and for all. I'm telling you, Chuck, I'm so upset with Common for a bad mouth in your show time and time again. It's so upsetting, and I just couldn't take it anymore. 3 years has been way too long. So we flew back in here, just arrived out there at Eau Claire International Airport a couple hours ago, brought the limo here, and just thought we'd issue the challenge to Common.
Well, you know, are you still using that one eye gouge where you get them in the headlock and gouge out their eyes? Are you still using that play?
Been using that one, but I've been working out there with Hogan. We've got a brand new move that we're going to be unveiling if Common accepts this match. Brand new. It's a guaranteed. I guarantee the match won't last longer than 5 to 10 minutes at the most.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The Intercontinental Pac-11 World Wrestling Champion, Johnny the Man Ringo, is challenging the Common Man, so that's going to be quite a match.
Come on, Common Man.
The Common Man versus Johnny the Man Ringo. No holds barred, death match.
Death match to the end.
In the iron cage, and we'll see if we can pull that together and get a match going and get a contract signed. We'll see if the little wimp has got anything to say out there in television land.
I'll have Miss Nikki stay in contact with you here, Chuck, getting everything set up. It's great to see you again. We'll stay in touch. Come on, Common. Accept the challenge. I'll be waiting.
Show your belt one more time there. I mean, that belt.
Intercontinental.
That belt's been around the world.
Pac-11, all over the world. The midgets in Bulgaria tried to get it. The big bull, the 350-pound woman, tried to get it. It's staying with Johnny.
Wait a minute, I think we got one more caller. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air. Hello? Did I get the wrong line here? Oh, we lost him there. We'll have to call
It's
back.
Common. I bet you got a little shaky in the boots and hung up.
Probably shaking dialing the phone there. Probably got nervous. Well, I'll tell you. So you're not going to tell us what your new secret hold is. I know the eye gouger there. Well, that's one of the reasons you got kicked out of that one league.
It's been declared illegal. I think the new move could be just as controversial, but we'll wait. We'll wait. We're going to unveil it there with a death match with a Common Man, and I guarantee you, Chuck, you're going to be thoroughly impressed with it. It's going to take him down and break every little bone in his body on what's left there is anyway.
Now, what about that one match down there in Mexico, that one that where you wrestled that guy that had hair all over his face? What was that all about?
Well, I tell you, Chuck, at first that was a little scary. I've never seen as much hair in a man as I did back there at the San Diego Zoo with the baboons running around. A little afraid. We got the Bic razor out there. We gave him a clean shaven, cleaned him up a little bit, and pinned him down, threw him around like a tiny, teeny man that he was. And he was after we got all the hair cleaned up and got him cleaned up and made him looking like a man again. We took him down, and no problem for Johnny Ringo.
Okay, Johnny. Well, do you think you can actually take Common? Now, I've heard Common bites, he scratches, he gouges, he kicks.
I know he plays dirty, and he talks dirty, he talks trash, and it could be a challenge. But I know with the guidance of the mentors, Greg Gagne back there, with Miss Nikki in the corner, I don't see any problem taking on Common. I don't see any problem taking him down and taking him out and keeping the Pac-11 World Championship, the Intercontinental title, right here where it belongs.
Okay, I think we got that caller back. And go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, hey, this is Wild Man Otis. You don't want to even mess with me.
All right, are you a wrestler?
Oh, I'm more than a wrestler. I'm the real deal. And this little skinny little punk with Tourette's syndrome up here, he ain't shit.
All right, sounds like there's somebody else.
I think somebody broke into Irvine Park there, Common, and Chippewa. Sounds like some of the animals are getting loose.
Sounds like some of Common's underlings there are trying to mouth off a little
The
bit.
shenanigans again.
Let's see if Common puts his money where his mouth is and shows up for the match. We'll see if we can wrap that up and get a contract going, and we'll have Johnny the Man Ringo versus the Common Man. That ought to be quite a match.
And Chuck, I got to get going. The Jets fired up waiting. We got to get back to Beverly Hills.
I think we got one
Another
more
call. We can stay for one more. Maybe it's Common.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Did
Is that
you
old McDonald's farm? Is that Common shenanigans again? What's going on here? Johnny Ringo doesn't have time for this.
All right, Johnny. Well, we appreciate you coming in again, and glad to see you after 3 years. We didn't know what happened to you. We heard rumors about the Bulgarian wrestling and the 350-pound woman that almost pinned you, and then that kind of that werewolf guy down there in Mexico. And I'll tell you, it looks like you've been around the world. You got the diamond ring on. You still got the belt. And does the diamond ring go with the belt? Is that part of the match?
Actually, the diamond ring came back from Miss Lulu, if you remember her back in the WWF days, the world champion, when she passed the torch on to Miss Nikki when she won the championship. She gave her the diamond ring. Miss Nikki's been a loyal fan of my corner ever since. It's just a symbol of her commitment to the Johnny the Man Ringo and our faith here to take on the world and take on Common and continue to be successful. But the belt is on the line.
All right, well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Johnny the Man Ringo from Beverly Hills, California, has come back to Eau Claire to stake out his claim. Thanks for coming in, Johnny. All right, go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Oh, I wanted to speak to the wrestler freak.
Well,
You got?
you had your chance.
Bring him back quick.
Come back here, Johnny. There's one guy who wants to talk to you.
We can be just brief. The Jets waiting. We got to get going back there to Beverly Hills. Hope this is a real question. We don't have time. Is this Common?
Hope to know your damn role. Yeah, shut your mouth. Woo!
Well, what's the question? He's here.
Well, where is? Let me see him. I don't see him on the TV.
Roy, you got to bring Johnny the Ringo Man up again.
We don't have time for this. What's going on?
There he is.
Common?
All right, there he is.
Hope to know your damn role. Yeah, you need to shut your mouth and know your damn role, because I'm the most electrifying guy in Eau Claire. You want to wrestle? I'll wrestle you for some dinkety-dink.
Well, first of all, Common's got to
Yeah, you look a little confused. You know, you're...
Well, because I don't know who the heck we're talking to on the phone. It sounds like a little bunch of fifth graders from Boyd Elementary. We're offering the challenge to Common Man. I want to hear him call. I know Chuck's got a show to do here. We got Miss Nikki and I got to get back to Beverly Hills.
All right, man.
And
Blue colors.
Chuck, we're going to be heading out here again. Once again, it's great to
All right.
be here. And
All right.
Common Man calls in. I'll get and have your people get in contact with Miss
Okay.
Nikki there.
My
And
people will get in touch with your people out in Beverly Hills.
we'll get the contract signed up and call in, Common.
We'll do lunch. All right. Thanks a lot. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The challenge has been laid out there for the Common Man. Is he a man or a wimp? He's been going by the Common Man all these years. They've been 20, 25 years now spouting off around town. Let's see if he has really got what it takes to take on Johnny the Man Ringo, the Intercontinental Pac-11 World Wrestling Champion, live from Beverly Hills. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, that takes care of that. Now, we have some information coming out about the Y2K problem. Of course, if you still want to call in, Common, the show, the lines are open for you. You can call in and go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm a personal friend of Common, and Johnny just better watch breath. He's got a killer breath. I just want to warn him. It'll be a good match, though, so I hope the best man wins.
Who, Common Man's breath?
Oh, yeah, it's killer, so...
Well, he's going to have to show his muscles in there because in a death match in the cage, in that steel cage, there ain't nowhere for Common to run.
Yeah, I know. So...
And he likes to kind of spout off and run and hide, but this time he'll be locked in the cage to the death till the end of the match.
We got to get him in there, and we got to fight to the end. It'll be a good match, I'm sure.
I think it'll fill up any arena in this area.
I think so, too. So hopefully we can get him on the phone here.
All right.
All righty, thanks.
Thanks a lot. Okay, well, we're waiting for the Common Man to call in. You know, the Canadian National Guard has already alerted all of their troops to be on standby December.
Well, there you have it. That doggone loudmouth Common never did show up for that program. It's unfortunate. We were hoping that the little wimp would call in and set up that death match in the steel cage there, but, you know, Johnny Ringo hung around, and then he flew back to Beverly Hills, and we kept in contact with him for 3 months, but that little wimp commie never did show up and never did take the challenge. We even offered the little wimp $10,000 to come in there and wrestle Johnny the Man Ringo with one hand tied behind his back, and that little two-faced little wimp commie wouldn't even come in there for 10 grand in cold cash. So that just shows you what a little crybaby little wimp chicken he is. He wouldn't even show up for that kind of money. We had the contracts ready to sign and everything. Well, unfortunately, Johnny the Man Ringo went back to Beverly Hills, did a couple movies out there, one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and another one with Jesse the Body Ventura, and then an unfortunate accident. He fell out of a helicopter during the filming of one of those action movies into the ocean, and nobody's heard from him since. It's been over a year now. That was only a few months after the show was aired, and Johnny the Man Ringo has disappeared, and we're hoping that we'll hear some news that he landed on some island and survived, but the way it looks right now, he's gone forever. Johnny the Man Ringo. When you saw him there, he was in his prime, making big money, hanging around with all the stars, all buffed and ready to go, and in his prime, and about 30 years old, and then all of a sudden he's gone. But that's kind of the way life is. Well, you know, earlier in the show we tried to call the wimp Common and get him on the air, but he's just wimped out. He won't talk to anyone live anymore. He's afraid that we'll put him in the corner and prove him out for the wimp that he is. All right, well, we have here a new Newsweek poll. Convention bounce pushes Gore ahead of Bush 48 to 42%. So what they call these bounces after these conventions, you know, during the Republican convention and just before it, and then during it and after, Bush was way ahead by 15, 20 points to some polls, but now all of a sudden Gore's ahead, 48 to 42%. So like I've been saying all along, this is going to be a horse race. It could be as close as the 1960 election where Kennedy stuffed the ballot boxes in Chicago and won. All those dead people in the cemeteries up there in Chicago were voting, and that put Kennedy over the top and beat Nixon by just a few thousand votes. But it all boiled down to just a few votes in the Chicago area was the difference in Kennedy winning or losing. And of course the mafia was involved in that, and the Kennedys paid back the mafia by starting to arrest them all and trying to bust up the Teamsters and arresting these mafia guys. And of course, you know, the rest is history. In 1963, Kennedy was assassinated, and here we are today, 37 years later. And the mafia is still in business, and all the Kennedys are gone or in. Some of them are on trial. One of them is on trial for murder, and Teddy Kennedy's still a big drunk and looks like Bozo the Clown. And one of the other Kennedys is dead. John Jr. just died in a plane wreck, and the only sensible one left is Maria Shriver, and she's married to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's a cigar-smoking Republican. The rest of the Kennedy clan is just kind of disintegrated. So anyway, getting back to the presidential race here, it's going to be a close one, and it's going to depend on who gets their people to the polls on Election Day, because it's probably going to be another small turnout. And as you can see, I'm needing glasses, and I would like to have a president in there that's going to really strengthen Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, so I can get some glasses. You can see there that I've developed cross-eyed-itis there, and my eyes now, instead of crossing in towards my nose, they're going out towards my ears, and it's some kind of disease that I just picked up here recently, and I'm hoping to get over that. But until I can get some decent glasses, you're just going to have to put up with this on the show here. I know Roy's been trying to help every chance he gets, and he's been with me now for about 20-25 years trying to help, and same with Freddie Boy. But you can see here that I've had a few operations trying to fix it, and this is what I've gotten from the operations, because that's what you're dealing with when you can't afford decent doctors. You got to go down to Tijuana, and then this is what happens. So getting back to the Newsweek poll, which is a fairly scientific poll, it's only giving the Green Party, which is being headed by Ralph Nader, giving them about 4% of the vote, and poor old Pat Buchanan, who we all had high hopes for, is only getting about 1% of the vote. So he's going to really not be a factor in this election the way it looks. But in some states, the Green Party with Ralph Nader is really being a challenge to Gore. I think I saw a poll over in Minnesota where Gore was actually, or Nader was actually around 30% of the vote in Minnesota just a few days ago. And so some of these states, it's going to really skew the vote there, and it could make it really close, and it could cause Gore to lose the race. The stronger that Nader gets. Now, you know, I've been thinking about Pat Buchanan, lifelong Republican, worked for Nixon in Nixon's White House, and was a speechwriter for Nixon, and was a lifelong Republican, grew up in Washington, D.C., went through the tough schools in Washington, and just kind of a two-fisted, all-around American guy, and then all of a sudden he up and quits the Republican Party, and it just didn't ring true. So I got to thinking about it a little bit, and you know, Pat Buchanan is going to go down in history as one of the true leaders of the Republican Party and one of the true patriots, that he has sacrificed himself to help George Bush get elected. This is George Bush Jr. And this is a very unique but bold move by the Republican Party when they sat down and decided to do this back in 1998, when this was all hatched, and it was decided then that Buchanan would leave the party and he would go in and he would destroy the Reform Party. But in reality, he's still a Republican, and he's doing this so that George Bush can win. Because if you'll recall, George Bush's father was defeated by the Reform Party, and what's his name, the little midget from Texas, what's his name again, Roy? Ross Perot, little midget in Texas down there, destroyed Bush and scared the vote there enough that it put that serial rapist from Arkansas in the White House for 8 years. And that was Perot and the Reform Party that did that. So George Bush Jr. didn't want the same thing to happen to him with the Reform Party. So my theory is that Pat Buchanan privately sat down with the Republicans, leadership of the Republican Party, and said, I will be the one that will act. I will take this upon myself to do this espionage. I will leave the Republican Party and I will go into the Reform Party and take it over by any means possible, including joining up with the likes of communist Lenora Fulani, who has infiltrated the Reform Party. And I will go in there and I will sacrifice my Republican career and my chances for any future to help tear down the Reform Party and help make it not a competing force in the 2000 elections. And I will do this. I will help disintegrate the Reform Party so that George Bush will become president. And I think that's very commendable of Pat Buchanan to do that, to be willing to go in there and do that. And this is the kind of thing that Pat has been able to do all of his life. You know, they called it dirty tricks back in the old days, but Pat has sacrificed his career in the Republican Party, and he's been called a lot of names by Republicans, but these Republicans don't realize what Pat's doing. He's doing a service for the Republican Party because he's helping break up the party that would pull the votes away from Bush, and those votes would be enough pulled away from Bush that another Democrat would get in there, like what happened in '92. So Pat is a true hero when he did that. We really thank you for what you're doing, Pat, to help the Republicans win this crucial year 2000 race, to give us a clean sweep of the House and the Senate and the presidency so that we can turn this country around and strengthen it again. Well, Roy, about how much time we got left here?
7 minutes.
Okay, Roy says we got about 7 minutes. All right. Well, for those of you out there that have followed the career of Ellen DeGenerate and Ann Heck, or Heche, well, they're split up. DeGeneres and Heche split up. And they gave a statement dated August 19th out of New York. Went through the Associated Press. Ellen DeGeneres and Ann Heche have split up. And the statement says, unfortunately, we have decided to end our relationship, the couple said in a statement in Saturday's Daily News. It is an amicable parting, and we greatly value the 3.5 years we have spent together. Well, this is typical of these kinds of relationships. They're not sanctioned by God, they're not sanctioned by the state. So you've got church and state, neither one will sanction them. And besides that, it's an abomination. And it never would stand up. It won't stand up in heaven, it won't stand up on earth. And all they did was they sealed both their fates, and they've sealed their path. They're destined for hell. They're both going to be swimming in the lake of fire, and even asbestos swimming suits aren't going to save them, because they're destined to jump in, to be thrown into the lake of fire, and to be in torment for eternity. So anyway, Ellen DeGenerate, who had the Degenerate show on television for several years, and this other pervert, Ann Heche, have split. It says DeGeneres, 43, was the first openly gay lead on television a year after declaring her homosexuality in a Time magazine's cover story in 1997. ABC canceled her Ellen series, citing declining ratings. Well, the ratings were phony to begin with. The show was propped up. It was supposed to create new ground on television, but all it was it just showed us once again the degenerate and perverted nature of these TV programs and the people that control and own these programs and what they put out to the American people. It's not reality. It's what they want to create as reality. they want to shape the way society is, and they want to push society in a certain direction. So that's why they feed this poison to you on a daily basis. And you sit there and watch it. It goes in your brain day after day, hour after hour, year after year, month after month, decade after decade. And before you know it, you're brainwashed into saying, well, that's just normal. It's just two human beings doing this and that. And of course, that's the same thing that's happened with all the violence on television over the years. After you've seen a couple 100,000 murders and slashings and people thrown off cliffs and shot and stabbed and crushed and beaten to death and tied up and burned alive, after you see a couple 100,000 of those, all of a sudden it's taken the edge off of what reality is as far as crime and violence, and to the point where you don't, your conscience has been seared. That's basically what television does, a poison that's put into your brain day after day by the poison that's put out of Hollywood and New York City. And this poison is put out to people just basically to sear your conscience so that nothing really phases you anymore, nothing really touches your conscience and you feel guilty about it. And that's basically part of the whole system that has been set up to pretty much to wreck our society and to destroy America. Just part of it has been shows like this, The Ellen Show, and this degenerate pervert and the female, it just didn't work, and this type of thing will never work. It'll never work on earth. It'll never be allowed in heaven. So Anne Heche, 31, and DeGeneres collaborated on an HBO film, If These Walls Could Talk, Part 2, in April. Heche directed DeGeneres and this other pervert, Sharon Stone, in the story of a homosexual couple trying to have a baby. Well, there's another freak of nature. When two male homosexuals claim that they're living together as man and wife, well, how can that be when the whole system of marriage was set up as a type and shadow of the marriage of Jesus Christ to the earthly church, the Christian church here on earth? That's what a marriage is. Jesus represented the male, the church represents the collective female, the church, male and females that belong to the church, and Jesus comes to marry his bride, which is the church, and that's where the whole marriage was created from. The earthly marriage ceremony was copied after the heavenly ceremony where Christ comes to marry his bride, the church, and take her away to heaven on a honeymoon to the marriage supper of the Lamb. Well, when two males say that they're married or two females say that they're married, it's an abomination and a perversion of God's will, when God said that a male would marry a female, and they would leave their families and they would live together and be as one. Well, two females cannot be as one, and two males cannot be as one. And it just never will work on earth, and it never will work in heaven. Jesus also said whatever is bound on earth is bound in heaven, and whatever is loosed on earth, loosed in earth, is loosed in heaven. But this will never stand, and that's why these perverted relationships don't stand, and that's why homosexuals have a very high rate of alcoholism, drug addiction, suicide. The average lifespan of your male homosexuals is about 42 to 45 years old. Female homosexuals is not better. I think it's in the late 30s or early 40s. The very high incident rate of alcoholism and beating of one couple by one person, one male against another male or one female against another. It's because they're in a perverted lifestyle, and the only way they can hold that lifestyle together is through alcohol, drugs, or through fear and beatings. So anyway, these two perverts have finally broke apart. And at one time, Anne Heche, when she had her head screwed on straight, almost married Steve Martin, or the actor, the comedian, and she was also linked to a guy named Richard Burgi before hooking up with this degenerate pervert Ellen DeGeneres. But the end here, Roy Rogers Hoff, my pyrotechnical engineer, says that we only have about 15 seconds left. So we appreciate you turning into the show again, and we'll see you right here next time on the Old Cow Report. I've been your host, Chuck Lee. With me has been Roy Rogers Hoff, my pyrotechnical engineer. We'll see you right here next time. Adios, amigos and amiguettes.